Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. Lagos's monsoon season battered the city, but nothing cut through the cold rain like the ache in Amina's bones. Huddled beneath a threadbare shawl, she cradled 3-year-old Tun to her chest beneath the underpass. Water pooled around her tattered sandals, and the roar of buses drowning laughter and prayers alike. Each drop of rain felt like another question in her mind. How would she feed her son tomorrow? What had become of her life? As vendors shuttered stalls and hurried home, Amina stared at the faded photograph of her late mother, clutched in one shaking hand. "Tund, my sweet boy," she murmured, brushing his damp curls. "Mama is here." He whimpered, shivering, and buried his face in her coat. She stroked his hair, her own tears mixing with the rain. The big brick house she once called home receded into memory. Sunlit laughter in the living room, the day her husband collapsed from his illness, the mounting hospital bills that swallowed their savings, the landlord's eviction notice. She had sold her wedding ring for a bowl of stew. Even that memory tasted bitter. A sleek black SUV idled at the intersection. Inside, Emeka Okoro glanced up from his phone. His world of boardrooms and private jets suddenly felt hollow when his gaze locked on Amina. He saw her exhaustion, the fierce protectiveness in her eyes, the way Tund clung to her. Impulsively, he pressed the locks and stepped into the downpour, unmindful of the luxury suit that would soon be ruined. "Miss, are you all right?" he called, his voice gentle despite the thunderclaps. Amina flinched, startled by the polished stranger. She tucked the photo further into her pocket and rose to her feet, brushing wet strands from her face. "I'm fine," she lied, voice hoarse. "Just cold." Emeka offered her an umbrella and a thermos wrapped in a torn towel. "I have 2 spare seats in my car. I can drive you somewhere warm." He kept his tone light, careful not to frighten her. Amina's heart hammered. Thank you," she whispered, glancing at Tun's hopeful eyes. He nodded, clutching her hand as though it might vanish if he let go. She hesitated, pride warring with desperation. Finally she lifted her chin. "Okay." As Emeka opened the rear door, he knelt to Tun's level. "Hey buddy. I'm Emeka. Want some warm porridge?" Tund blinked at the thermos, then smiled. Amina stepped inside, leaving rain-soaked cardboard and shame behind, unable to know her world would never be the same again. Amina's life before the underpass felt like another lifetime. She remembered the modest classroom where she taught first graders, her husband's gentle encouragement, and their cramped brick home warmed by shared laughter. But life's fragility had shattered her world. When her husband took ill, Amina balanced teaching job and hospital visits. One payday she handed over half her salary to settle a steep medical bill. The next month she returned to an eviction notice pinned to her door. Her sister's sharp words still echoed, "You trusted him too much." Amina had pressed the paper to her chest, tears blurring the landlord's threats. She sold furniture, then her wedding ring, until the day she watched the moving truck depart without her. Soon after, her husband, weak and broken, walked away, leaving her with nothing but Tund and mounting shame. One evening, Amina awoke beneath a tangle of cardboard and plastic sheets. She rubbed her wrist, remembering the lullabies her mother had sung. In that makeshift bed, she dreamed of warm kitchens and bedtime stories. Dawn brought the same cold, empty ache. The ache of hunger that twisted her stomach and the ache of invisibility as passers-by skirted around her and Tund as if they carried a disease. Back in the present, Amina sat on a damp curb at the shelter's entrance, cradling her son. The day's first light revealed her hollow cheeks and the fine line of determination in her eyes. Emeka had insisted she take 2 nights at his partner NGO's safe haven. Though skeptical, she had agreed, for Tun's sake. When the shelter manager, Mrs. Duru, handed her a bowl of steaming porridge, Amina bowed her head. "Thank you," she whispered. Tund slurped happily. "More, mama?" Amina managed a small laugh. "Slow down, baby." Emeka appeared by her side with a clipboard. "How are you feeling?" She studied him, his crisp shirt, his genuine concern. "Grateful. But," she hesitated, wrestling with pride. "I'm not sure I deserve this." His gaze held hers. "No one deserves to struggle like this," he replied. "Let me help you change that." He tapped the clipboard. "Would you like to explore some opportunities? You mentioned teaching." Amina's heart ached to refuse another handout, but Tund reached for her, eyes shining. "Okay," she whispered, voice steady. As she followed Emeka's confident stride toward the shelter office, the shadows of her past lengthened behind her. But for the first time in a long while, she dared to dream of a tomorrow beyond the rain. Emeka's kindness arrived like sunrise. Before dawn's first light, a white van, branded with his foundation's emblem, rolled to a stop beside the underpass. Amina peered out from beneath her shawl as the door swung open and Emeka emerged, umbrella in hand, followed by a volunteer carrying steaming trays of jollof rice and goat stew. "I brought breakfast," he said, voice gentle but insistent. "And I'd like to help you both off the streets, at least for tonight." Amina's heart hammered. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the damp morning air. Emeka crouched to meet her eyes. "Because everyone deserves safety, warmth, and hope," he replied. He pressed a blanket into her arms and handed Tund a bowl. The boy's eyes widened at the aroma. "Thank you," Amina managed, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Each spoonful of rice felt like a miracle, warmth seeping into her bones, stirring memories of home. When she finished, Emeka offered 2 clean shirts and a towel. "There's a room reserved at our partner shelter. Hot shower, real bed, 2 nights on us." Amina's defenses flared. "I don't want charity," she said, yoked between gratitude and pride. Emeka's gaze was steady. "Then call it an invitation. No strings." He smiled, handing her a small tote with essentials: soap, socks, underwear. The generosity overwhelmed her. She glanced down at Tund, his smile lit with hope, and realized pride could wait. In the van's back seat, the interior smelled of fresh paint and promise. Tund perched on her lap, clutching his rice. Emeka navigated Lagos's waking streets with care, nodding at dawn vendors setting up stalls. Each corner felt surreal to Amina, the city's pulse seen through tinted windows, the roar of engines softened by the promise of shelter. She sank into the seat, the blanket around her like a shield. At the shelter's iron gate, Emeka greeted the matron, Mrs. Duru, with a warm handshake. He introduced Amina and Tund, then quietly stepped aside. The matron showed them a small room, white sheets, a single window overlooking a courtyard, a crib beside the bed. Amina sank onto the mattress, tears brimming. 2 nights, she whispered to Tund. 2 nights of safety. Before leaving, Emeka knelt beside her. "Tomorrow we talk next steps, workshops, training, whatever you choose." He handed Amina a card with his mobile number. "Call me if you need anything." Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Amina sat in the silence, the weight of her past still heavy, but a bright ember of possibility glowing within her. Tund curled beside her, already drifting towards sleep. She stroked his hair, gratitude and apprehension tangled in her chest. Outside, Lagos moved on, cars honking, vendors calling, life beckoning. Inside, Amina dared to believe that this unexpected offer might be the lifeline she and her son so desperately needed. The shelter's courtyard bloomed with automatic generators, rows of plastic chairs, and the scent of fresh paint. Amina followed Mrs. Duru down a corridor, each step echoing off white walls. She glanced at crisp schedules tacked on bulletin boards: skills workshops, counseling sessions, job fairs. For the first time she felt a flicker of belonging. But guilt tightened her throat. She had neither fled violence nor addiction, yet here she was, receiving help meant for the desperate. That afternoon, Emeka returned. A uniformed driver escorted him through the gate. He found Amina sorting clothes in the small closet. "How are you holding up?" he asked, concern in his eyes. She paused, folding a shirt. "I feel like I'm stealing someone else's chance." Emeka shook his head. "This space exists because people believe stories like yours matter. You're exactly who we want here." He sat on the edge of the bed. "Tell me about your teaching," he encouraged. Amina inhaled sharply, the memory both sweet and painful. "I taught first grade," she said, smoothing a folded towel. "I loved their curiosity. But my husband got sick, hospital bills drained us, and then—" her voice cracked. She looked away, ashamed. Emeka reached out, gently placing a hand on hers. "That was never your fault. Life threw you a storm, you survived it. That strength is rare." Later they walked the shelter's garden, a small patch of grass and bougainvillea framed by tall walls. Tund toddled behind, chasing a stray kitten. Emeka pointed out a notice for an upcoming career workshop. "I want you there," he said. "I've arranged an orientation on Monday. No pressure, just explore." Amina nodded, unsure. He handed her a notebook and pen. "Write down questions. I'll answer them." At dusk, she tucked Tund into the crib, the soft mattress a stark contrast to damp cardboard. She watched him drift off, then slipped outside to scan Lagos's skyline, a jagged silhouette of towers and power lines. The city that once swallowed her now felt within reach. Emeka's voice echoed, "No pressure, just explore." She returned the notebook to the tote and, with trembling resolve, crossed an invisible border from survival to possibility. Monday morning, the workshop room hummed with quiet chatter. Women in vibrant wrappers and men in neatly pressed shirts shuffled into rows of plastic chairs. Amina sat at the back, clutching her notebook. The instructor, a soft-spoken seamstress named Chidinma, began with introductions. When her turn came, Amina cleared her throat. "I'm Amina, and I used to teach first grade." A ripple of interest passed through the room. Chidinma smiled. "We're honored to have you." The workshop covered tailoring basics, measuring tape, fabric selection, seam allowances. Each demonstration sparked memories of Amina's mother teaching her to hem pillowcases. She picked up a needle, fingers stiff at first. Her classmates offered guidance. One woman, Mercy, praised her even stitches. Another, Funk, shared scraps of ankara that had outlived their owners. By noon, Amina had sewn a simple apron, her first creation in months. She ran her hand over the vibrant fabric, pride warming her chest. At lunch, Emeka popped in with 2 tall cups of Zobo drink. "How's our top student?" he teased, handing her a cup. Amina laughed, the sound unusual in her own ears. "I'm rusty, but I'm learning." He nodded toward her apron. "That's beautiful." Tund peeked from behind Emeka's leg. "Mama so pretty," he declared. Amina swept him into a hug, her heart full. Afterward, they walked through the shelter's small marketplace, tables of crafts, baked goods and woven baskets. Chidinma offered to connect Amina with a local market stall. Emeka squeezed her shoulder. "Think about it," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time." Amina tucked the apron into her bag, determination flickering in her gaze. That night, in the small room, Amina breathed deeply. She spread the apron across the bed and smoothed its wrinkles. Tomorrow she would decide if she was ready to sell her work, to step beyond safety and into opportunity. For the first time since the rain, she dreamed of dignity. Despite small victories, doubt gnawed at Amina. Each morning, she woke with ache in her muscles and longing in her heart. What if she failed again? What if Emeka's kindness was just a fleeting impulse? As she folded her clothes in the shelter closet, she overheard 2 volunteers whisper, "She's the Billionaire'S project, isn't she?" Probably more drama for the foundation. Shame flamed, she clasped her shawl tight. That afternoon's sewing session felt heavy. Her stitches wavered, her mind clouded by anxious thoughts. Mercy noticed and offered gentle encouragement. "Remember why you're here." Amina forced a smile, pressing the needle through fabric. Each poke reminded her of past regrets. Later, she checked her voicemail and froze at one unheard message. A local market manager asking if she was still interested in renting a stall. Her pulse quickened. This could be her chance. Yet fear clenched her gut. What if she couldn't manage the upfront costs, the vendor competition? She typed a reply, then deleted it. Outside, Emeka's SUV glided to a stop. He stepped out, umbrella raised against a sudden drizzle. He found her by the garden gate, arms wrapped protectively around herself. "You look burdened," he observed. Amina glanced away. "I'm fine." He studied her. "You deserve honest talk. What's on your mind?" She inhaled, voice tight. "I don't want to be just another charity story. I want to stand on my own." He nodded. "So you will. But everyone needs help sometimes. That doesn't diminish your strength." She stared at him, uncertainty and relief warring in her eyes. "I'm scared." He offered his hand. "Then let's face it together." At that moment, rain began to fall, not a storm but a gentle downpour. Amina closed her notebook, took his hand and let hope wash over her once more. A week after the pop-up success, Amina arrived at the Foundation's sleek headquarters feeling both exhilarated and uneasy. The lobby's marble floors gleamed under recessed lights. Polished receptionists offered polite nods as she followed Emeka into a glass-walled conference room. He closed the door behind them, folding his umbrella on a pristine table. "Thank you for coming," Emeka began, voice warm. He slid a glossy folder across the table. "I've been talking with our board about you." Amina's heart thudded. "Me?" He nodded, eyes bright. "Your resilience, your business sense, we want to seed an official partnership. We provide microgrant funding, marketing support, and mentorship for the next 6 months. In return, you'd help design our new program for other mothers." Amina swallowed. "I'm honored, but," she traced the folder's edge. "I don't want to overpromise." Emeka leaned back. "That's exactly why you're perfect. You know real struggle. You can guide others." He opened the folder to reveal a clear outline: monthly stipend, workshops, and an advisory role. We'd cover all expenses. Silence settled as Amina weighed pride against panic. What would be expected of me? She asked at last. Attend quarterly board meetings, Emeka said. Share your insights, help us tailor programs to real needs. And continue running your stall. She let out a breath. I'd like that. Relief and excitement surged together. Emeka smiled. Then it settled. Welcome as our first partner ambassador. He extended his hand, she shook it, heart racing with possibility. Over the next hours, they hammered out details: communication channels, performance milestones, and community outreach plans. Amina suggested local radio segments to spotlight women's achievements. Emeka agreed, already tapping his phone. Later, outside the building, Amina looked up at Lagos's skyline, the sun slipping behind skyscrapers. Emeka watched her. How do you feel? She thought of Tun's wide grin when she first sold Accra at the market, of sleepless nights stitching aprons by lantern light. Nervous, she admitted, but ready. He nodded. Partnership doesn't mean you lose independence. It means we tackle challenges together. As they parted ways, Emeka to his car, Amina to the bus ride home, she clutched the folder to her chest. The city's noises felt different now, not obstacles but steps toward something greater. That night, as she tucked Tund into bed, she whispered, "Mama's coming back," believing for the first time her promise to him, and to herself, was unstoppable. 2 days later, Amina stood before rows of empty wooden stalls at the bustling Ajij market. The early sun cast long shadows across tarpaulins and spilled light onto woven baskets of yams. With seed money in hand, she rented stall 27, small but visible. She unpacked her apron-stitch display, steaming bowls of pap, neatly stacked Accra fritters, and small paper cups of zobo. By mid-morning, curious shoppers paused. "Mama, try this," a customer urged, sipping porridge. Mouth full, she nodded approval. Amina's chest swelled. Each sale felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Her hands moved confidently, ladling pap, flipping Accra, calling out prices. Amid the crowd, Emeka appeared, unannounced. He surveyed her stall, then the modest crowd. "Business is good," he remarked, picking up a fritter. "These are delicious." Amina flashed a grateful smile. "Thank you." He glanced around. "Would you like me to connect you with a supplier for beans? You could save on cost." She hesitated. "I don't want to indebted it to anyone." He shook his head. "You're partnering with me already." He handed her a notebook. "Write down what you need." As he helped tally inventory, calculating projected demand, Amina realized she could dream bigger. Maybe a second stall for roasted plantain or hiring Tun's aunt to help. They agreed to meet weekly to review finances and marketing ideas. Later, she hired 2 part-time helpers. Chinyu, a young mother who'd lost her job, and Ade, a quiet teenager learning to fend for his siblings. She paid them fair wages, training them in food safety and customer service. Watching Chinyu smile as she rang up sales filled Amina with pride. That evening, as she closed shop and counted earnings, Emeka's voice pinged on her phone. "Great day, let's celebrate Saturday at my place with other entrepreneurs." Amina sent a quick thumbs-up emoji, then paused. Social events in high society felt daunting, but she reminded herself, this was part of building a foundation. At home, under the single bulb in her shelter room, she reviewed receipts and nodding off over the stove rental invoice. She scribbled ideas: branded aprons, loyalty cards, social media shoutouts. Tomorrow she'd draft a simple flyer to post at the church. Her heart raced with possibilities, each plan another brick in the foundation of her new life. 2 weeks into her business expansion, Amina awoke to a text from the City Market Association. Fuel subsidy cut, bean prices up 40%. Immediate effect. Her stomach dropped. Beans were the heart of her Accra. At breakfast, she spooned pap to Tund in silence, mind racing. Later at the stall, she found Emeka waiting, concern shadowing his features. "I heard," he said quietly. She pressed her palms flat on the wooden counter. "Even if I raise prices, customers will balk." Amina's voice trembled. "They barely have money to feed families as is." They huddled under a faded umbrella. Emeka pulled out his tablet, tapping through market data. "Let's look at alternative suppliers, even outside Lagos. Bulk orders could offset costs." He called a wholesaler in Ogun State, negotiating delays and delivery. Meanwhile, Amina tallied her inventory, calculating the minimum price increase to avoid losses. As noon sun crackled, her first customer balked at a 10 naira hike. "Mama, that's too much." he grumbled, walking away. Amina swallowed and apologized, voice small. I'm sorry. She watched him join a neighbor at another stall. Her chest ached with worry. That evening rain pounded on the shelter's roof, an echo of her anxieties. She sat with Tund, brushing his hair. Mama will fix it, she reassured him, though doubt gnawed within. Late into the night, she researched grant programs and local cooperatives. She drafted a plea email to Emeka's foundation. Need temporary support for supply chain. By morning she stood at Emeka's office door, raincoat dripping. He ushered her in. We'll set up a revolving fund, he declared. No interest, just accountability. Relief and guilt warred in her eyes. He squeezed her hand. Storms come and go. You've weathered worse. As she left, she glanced back at his office, determined never to surrender again. The clouds overhead threatened, but Amina felt ready to face the tempest, armed with partnership and purpose. Saturday's pop-up event at the waterfront park felt like both a test and a triumph. Tents lined the boardwalk. Artisans, bakers, musicians. Amina unloaded her mobile food cart, pap cups, Accra sliders, plantain chips, and draped a banner reading Mama Amina's Tastes of Home. Her helpers buzzed around the stall, hands steady. Just before opening, Emeka arrived with crates of fresh produce. Thought you might need these, he grinned. He handed over ripe plantains and smoked fish, ingredients that elevated her menu. Thank you, she said, warmth flooding her. By midday, queues snaked around the cart. Families, tourists, and influencers lined up, phones out. Local radio interviewed her, cameras caught Tund dancing to Afrobeat. The buzz was electric. Yet behind the scenes, fatigue took hold. Chinyu's blender overheated, Ade spilled batter on the ground, and an organizer demanded she reduce her tent's footprint. As tension mounted, Amina felt panic rising. She excused herself and found Emeka by the water's edge. Everything okay? He asked. She exhaled. I'm overwhelmed. He nodded and offered quiet support. Delegate. Trust your team. Returning to the stall, she summoned Mercy and Funk, two women she'd met at workshops, and delegated tasks. One managed ingredients, the other handled payments. She took a moment to breathe, folding her apron. Customers noticed the change. Service improved, lines moved faster, smiles widened. Late afternoon, thunder rumbled. Organizers warned of an approaching storm. Emeka helped secure equipment, calling volunteers. Amina grabbed her notebook and recorded lessons learned. Clearer roles, backup supplies, communication signals. As rain swept the park, she and her helpers sheltered under a canopy, sharing donuts and laughter. Emeka pressed a sealed envelope into her hand. A small bonus for today, your first profit share. Inside, crisp notes for each helper. Amina felt tears sting her eyes. We did this together, she said softly. That evening, as she counted earnings under her shelter lamp, she realized trust had been forged in the trials of the day, not just between her and Emeka but among her growing team. The journey ahead would demand more of all of them, but Amina knew that no storm, literal or figurative, could break the bonds they'd built. Within days of the waterfront success, a popular lifestyle blogger, Lara Lux Ifani, posted a glowing photo of Amina serving Accra into her Instagram story. The caption read, "Billionaire's Kitchen Queen? Must-try delicacies by the unstoppable Mama A." Overnight, comments exploded, praise mixed with skepticism. Is this wealth porn? Why spotlight one street vendor? Billionaire charity stunt. Amina awoke to dozens of notifications. Her phone buzzed relentlessly as Tund tugged at her skirt. Mama, look. He pointed at the screen, eyes wide. She scanned the comments, heart pounding. Some celebrated her ingenuity, others accused her of being a pawn. She swallowed and replied to a concerned follower, I'm an entrepreneur, not a charity case. But doubt lingered. Was her success tainted by privilege? Later, Emeka arrived with a stack of newspapers and printed blog posts. Thought you'd like to see the conversation. He spread the articles on her stall's counter. We need a response. That afternoon, under the shade of her umbrella, Amina recorded a short video. She spoke in clear, steady tones about her journey, the community support, and the importance of shared opportunity. She thanked skeptics for holding her accountable and invited dialogue. She tagged local women's groups and her foundation. By evening, the tone had shifted. One local paper published an op-ed praising her transparency. Another interviewed her helpers about wages and training. She's building more than a business, they wrote. Social media buzzed with hashtag from pavement to plate. As she scrolled through messages of encouragement, A new wave of pride swelled in her chest. Emeka watched her, relief evident. "You handled that beautifully." Amina nodded. "This platform isn't about me anymore. It's about giving others hope." That night, as she tucked Tund in and closed her eyes, she realized scrutiny was the price of visibility, and she was ready to pay it, if it meant blurring the line between privilege and genuine empowerment. Word of Amina's success reached Educare Academy, a private school with limited scholarship slots. When the principal called to invite Tund for an interview, Amina's hands trembled. "He's only 3, she reminded herself. But this could change everything. On interview day, she dressed Tund in clean shorts and a bright polo, hair neatly combed. Emeka's foundation lent her a smart blazer, and he sent a driver to escort them. In the academy's ornate foyer, walls lined with student artwork, Amina felt out of place. But Tund bounced along, nose pressed to the glass doors. In the principal's office, photos of alumni decorated mahogany shelves. The principal, Mrs. Onwegbu, greeted them warmly. She asked Tund to identify shapes and colors. He answered shyly but correctly. Then she turned to Amina. "Your story has inspired this entire staff. We want him here." Outside, cameras flashed. A lifestyle magazine journalist captured Amina holding Tund's hand. "How does it feel, Mama of the Month?" she asked. Amina paused, glancing at Tund's bright smile. Grateful and determined. She squeezed his hand. Naturally, footage of Tund's triumph went viral. "Street child to scholar," read headlines. Some critics cried PR stunt, but many applauded the Academy's commitment. Donations poured in for scholarships to other homeless children. At dusk, Emeka found Amina on the playground swing, Tund pushing her gently. "You've started something bigger than your own family," he said. She looked at the laughing children, some new admissions from her foundation's programs, and felt tears of pride. That night, as Tund slept, Amina scrolled through congratulatory messages from mothers she'd never met. She typed a reply, "Tell your child I'm cheering for them too." And as the moonlight filtered through the window, she realized motherhood, and her spotlight, could lift many more than just herself and her son. Restless after the Academy's announcement, Amina climbed into a rickety Danfo bus heading toward her old neighborhood. The streets, once her familiar labyrinth, had changed. New billboards, shuttered shops, and overgrown lots. When she reached the ramshackle gate of her former home, vines curled around the rusted iron. She stood at the edge of the compound's courtyard, memories flooding back. Lullabies on the porch, her husband's laughter in the kitchen, arguments over money that spiraled into silence. She traced the faded doorframe where she'd once stood as a bride. Amina left a hand-stitched apron on the gate, a symbol of her journey. She whispered, "I forgive you," not just her husband but herself for guilt that bound her. A neighbor peered through a crack in the fence. "Is that?" she asked quietly. Amina nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. The neighbor offered a small bowl of stew, an unexpected gesture of kinship. Walking away, Amina dialed Emeka's number. "I needed to do that," she said. He listened, voice gentle. "Closure is part of the journey." Back at the market stall, she felt lighter. Folake, her estranged sister, found her there, eyes red. "I heard," Folake said, hugging her. "I'm proud." They shared Accra and stories until dusk. That night, Amina hung a small picture of her old house on her shelter wall, a reminder of how far she'd come, and where resilience had its roots. 3 months in, Amina's business had outgrown her single stall. With Emeka's backing, she negotiated a shared kitchen space in a converted warehouse, Mama Hub, where several women could cook together under one roof. The facility buzzed with activity. Ovens warming pastries, pots of stew simmering, women chatting as they chopped vegetables. Emeka handed Amina the keys. "It's yours," he said, pride in his eyes. She stared at the gleaming stainless steel counters. "We did this." They organized the first large corporate catering order, breakfast platters for a conference of tech executives. Amina led her team, Chinyu, Ade, Mercy, each donning branded caps and aprons. They loaded trays of Accra sliders, plantain skewers, and cups of pap into insulated carriers. At the venue, executives marveled at the flavors. "Incredible," one declared. "Where's this from?" Amina stepped forward, introduced her team, and spoke about roots, resilience, and recipes passed down from my mother. Cameras in the lobby captured her every word. That evening, back at Mama Hub, the team celebrated with jollof rice and dancing to high-life tunes. Laughter echoed through the warehouse. Emeka watched from the doorway, smiling. Amina caught his eye and mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded, understanding the unspoken gratitude for partnership and purpose. Later, as Amina tucked Tund into his new bunk in the dormitory-style room, she whispered, "Big dreams, Mama." He squeezed her hand. Under the Lego stars, Amina realized she had climbed higher than any stall or shelter. She had scaled her own fears. The view was breathtaking, and she knew the journey was only beginning. A week before the anniversary pop-up, Amina's world unraveled in an instant. A young customer, little Chica, collapsed at the stall after eating akara, her face pale and eyes glassy. Panic rippled through the crowd. "She's choking," a woman shouted. Amina dropped her ladle and knelt beside Chica, gently checking her airway. Emeka appeared in seconds, pushing through onlookers. "Medic?" he barked into his phone. Paramedics arrived, examined Chica, then declared food poisoning unlikely, perhaps an unrelated allergic reaction. As Chica was carried away on a stretcher, murmurs swirled. It was the food. Risky cooking. Amina's heart pounded. She barely heard Emeka's calm voice beside her. "You did everything right." Yet guilt hammered her chest. That night, she sat alone in the shelter room, replaying every step of her cooking process. "What if I killed her?" she whispered, tears blurring her vision. The next morning, Emeka arrived with two specialists, a public health officer and a food safety auditor. In the makeshift kitchen, they ran tests on oil, water, and batter samples. Amina hovered, cheeks flushed. When the report cleared her, no contaminants found, relief washed over her, but shame lingered. She stared at the empty stall as vendors passed by, eyes averted. Later, Emeka found her by the garden gate. "You're not defined by this scare," he said softly. Amina clenched her fists. "It was my stall. My name. I couldn't protect her." Emeka placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved her. You called help. That's strength." He tapped his tablet. "We'll launch a free food safety for all workshop, hosted here." In the sterile training room 2 days later, Amina led the first session. Nervous at first, she addressed local vendors. "Always check your oil temperature. Label allergens. Keep utensils sanitized." She demonstrated hand washing, measured cooking times, and answered questions. Emeka managed logistics and translated technical jargon. At one point, a skeptical vendor accused her, "You speak from a foundation-funded podium, do you know real streets?" Amina met his gaze steadily. "I was on those streets. My son and I survived there. Every tip I share kept us alive." By the end, vendors applauded. Confidence returned to Amina's voice. As she packed up her notebook, Emeka smiled. "You turned crisis into healing." She inhaled deeply, realizing that true confidence comes not from unbroken success, but from rising after the fall. With the safety workshop a success, Amina and Emeka expanded it into a community health fair at the shelter. Colorful stalls lined the courtyard. Nutritionists, midwives, and sanitation experts offered free clinics. Children ran between tents, clutching juice boxes, while mothers in bright wrappers gathered brochures. Amina stood at her cooking demo station, apron tied and spatula in hand. Emeka moved through the crowd, capturing footage for social media. When a tearful mother from the poisoning incident approached, Amina greeted her gently. "I'm so sorry for the scare," she said, offering fresh porridge. The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. "You saved my daughter's life." They embraced, wounds of fear and guilt healing in that moment. Over a steaming pot of pap, Amina addressed a circle of vendors and trainees. "Food can be the greatest comfort, but also a risk. We've learned together, and now we move forward together." She demonstrated how to fortify pap with ground nuts for added nutrition, and Emeka handed out recipe cards. A local nurse joined them, explaining proper food storage and first aid basics. Midday brought a surprise guest, Mrs. Onwegbu, the academy principal. She presented Tund with a mock junior nutritionist certificate, causing the boy to beam as cameras flashed. Nearby, Folake, Amina's sister, clapped enthusiastically, pride replacing past bitterness. That evening, as vendors packed up, Emeka and Amina counted leftover materials. "We're reaching hundreds," he noted, scrolling through engagement stats. Amina shrugged, heart full. "We're just moms helping moms." Emeka took her hand. "And that's why this works." Under the sunset's amber glow, the shelter courtyard pulsed with camaraderie and renewed trust. Amina realized that partnership wasn't just financial, it was about mending communities one shared lesson at a time. Business boomed. Orders streamed in for corporate events, market stalls overflowed, and social media mentions surged. To meet demand, Amina hired 3 more mothers, trained them, and established shifts. Yet growth brought new tensions. One afternoon she found Ade, now team lead, arguing with Chinyu over portion sizes. "You're cutting corners to save time." Ade snapped. Chinyu shot back, "I'm trying to keep us on schedule." Amina intervened. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice firm but calm. They explained. Faster service meant slight recipe tweaks, and some felt quality was slipping. That evening, Emeka joined a video call with Amina and her helpers. On his laptop screen he outlined a phased growth plan, staggered schedule expansions, quality control checkpoints, and a small bonus for zero-defect weeks. "We need balance," he said. "Scale carefully." Amina nodded, relief easing her shoulders. But tensions also rose between Amina and Emeka. In his sleek office she confronted him. "I appreciate the plan, but I'm not comfortable with the profit share structure you proposed. It feels too corporate." Emeka leaned forward. "I understand. Let's adjust it. Focus on reinvesting earnings into staff welfare." She relaxed. "Thank you for listening." Back at the stall, Tun tugged her sleeve. "Mama, why do you look worried?" Amina knelt. "Sometimes when things grow fast, leaders have tough choices. But I'll always choose what's right for us." He smiled and ran off to play, reminding her of why she began. That night, as she reviewed sales figures under her lamp, Amina realized success came with costs. Sleepless nights, management headaches, and delicate negotiations. Yet each challenge also forged her strength, and a team worthy of her vision. News of Mama Amina's impact reached Folklore, who had quietly tracked her sister's journey online. One humid morning at the market stall, Amina looked up to see Folklore standing amidst the queue, eyes glistening. "I've missed you," Folklore whispered. They embraced as customers watched. Behind the counter, Amina introduced her sister to Chinyu and Mercy. "This is my team, my family now." Folklore smiled shyly, then asked, "Will you forgive me for walking away when you needed me?" Amina took her hand. "We were both broken. Let's start fresh." That evening, the sisters shared akara and pap under a canopy light. Folklore admitted regrets. "I was afraid and I judged you." Amina reached across the table. "You don't have to earn my love. We're sisters." They laughed through tears, healing years of silence in a single night. Over the next week, Folklore joined as a part-time helper, perfecting a spiced pepper soup recipe. Together, they brainstormed new menu items. At dinner with Emeka, Folklore joked, "I'm the official taste tester now." Emeka raised his glass. "To family in all its forms." As Lagos's lights shimmered, Amina reflected on reunion, not just with her sister but with herself. She realized that every step of her journey had led her back to the one she loved, stronger and more united than ever. On the stall's first anniversary, the market erupted in celebration. Colorful banners fluttered above stall 27 reading, "1 year of Mama Amina." Vendors brought drums and horns and children danced around steaming pots. Amina stood on a makeshift stage, clutching a microphone, heart pounding. She began, voice trembling with emotion, "1 year ago, I was hiding under an underpass. Today I stand before you as a mother, a business owner, and a partner in this community." She paused as Tund climbed beside her, offering her a small crown of paper flowers. Laughter and cheers rose. Emeka stepped forward with a polished wooden plaque engraved, "Mama Amina, from pavement to prosperity." He placed it in her hands. Customers roared in approval. Amina's eyes filled with tears. She turned to the crowd. "This isn't just my triumph, it's ours. To every mother who dared to dream, to every helper who believed, and to every child who gave me purpose, thank you." Cheers thundered. Over the next hour, vendors offered free samples, Folklore served pepper soup, Chinyu handed out leaflets for the new mentorship program, and Ade led children in a drum circle. Amina moved through the crowd, hugging helpers, thanking customers, and finally finding Emeka. He kissed her cheek. "You did it." That night, beneath a canopy of lanterns, Amina danced with Tund as music pulsed around them. Prosperity felt bittersweet, no longer about survival but about the power of community, resilience, and love. Morning broke on the first day of Mums on the Move launch. Volunteers set up tables in the shelter courtyard, each station representing a skill Amina had mastered: cooking, sewing, bookkeeping, and negotiation. A banner proclaimed, "Your spark, your story." Amina, dressed in a crisp blazer, tapped the microphone. Around her, 20 homeless mothers sat on chairs, eyes bright with anticipation. Emeka stood at the back, camera ready. Tund perched on the stage, waving shyly. Amina took a deep breath. "When I began, I had nothing but hope," she said. "Someone believed in me, stepped into the rain to offer a hand. Now it's our turn to lift others. She introduced each station and their mentors, Chidinma for sewing, Mercy for customer service, and Mrs. Duru for shelter support. During the day, mothers rotated through workshops. In the sewing tent, Amina guided hands over fabric. In the cooking corner, she demonstrated Accra technique. Between sessions, she offered words of encouragement. You belong here. Tears glistened on more than one cheek. At midday, Folake presented lunch, a communal meal of jollof rice and stew. As mothers ate together, stories poured out. Dreams of entrepreneurship, fears of failure, and gratitude for a second chance. Amina joined Emeka by the hydration station. He wrapped an arm around her. Look at what you created. She nodded, watching new sparks ignite in each mother's eyes. That evening, as the sun sank over Lagos, the trainees posed for a group photo, beaming, hopeful. Amina held Tund on her hip and waved to the camera. Her world had truly turned upside down, from prayer in the rain to a movement that would ripple far beyond her own life. And as the flash captured their smiles, she knew the greatest triumph wasn't her own. It was the promise of every mother who would, in turn, pay it forward. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.